Okay, so we're going to go over this question real quickly. This is solving rational equations. Remember there's an equal sign here, okay? That's really important. You do not have to get a common denominator. All right, so with an equation, you do not have to get a common denominator. You can, but you can just multiply off all of the denominators, right? You can multiply to get rid of them, which is in essence what you do when you get a common denominator anyways. The other thing to note, guys, solving, okay, still some of you are not getting this, you need to have a value or values for x at the end. Like, what is x? We're asking you to solve for the unknown value or values for x, okay? You do have to make sure you consider your restrictions as well, okay? So the restrictions on x need to be noted as well. Okay, so what do? Well, what we do is we want to factor everything. Factor. So we can't factor anything in the first one. That's all. It's factored already. This one is factored. This trinomial here can be factored. So this looks like x minus 5 times x plus 1. Negative 5 and positive 1 multiplies it to negative 5, and these add up to negative 4, okay? And then here we have 6 and x minus 5, okay. Here's another thing that some of you did, but that you cannot do. You can't go, I have a 5 minus x and an x minus 5. I'll just throw a negative there and I'll cancel them out. I'll divide them out. Cannot do that because they're not factors. There's this big fat plus sign right here. So you cannot be dividing stuff out if there are two terms that are added or subtracted together. Can't do that. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to get rid of the denominators first. So I'm going to multiply everything by, well, I see an x plus 1 over here I need to get rid of, x plus 1. So we're going to multiply everything by that. I see an x minus 5 over here. Well, let's multiply everything by x minus 5 then. Fine. And so do we have anything else? X plus 1, x minus 5. Those are the only factors that show up. So you multiply everything by that. Okay? Now here's the step that's really important. Take each term and multiply individually by everything. That, like all those terms. So when you multiply these two together, the x plus 1s cancel out. You see that? So that's going to be just x times what's left over? X minus 5. All right, if you take a look at now the second term here, right? Second term times all of this stuff over here. Then you have the x minus 5 now cancels out. Because remember, we're multiplying. So you can do that. So what does that leave us with? Well, that leaves us with 5 minus x times, we can cancel off both of them, can't we? I wasn't finished there. X plus 1. So that's just 5 minus x. That's all it is. Right? And then this one over here, this last one, times both of those, the x minus 5s cancel out, and you're left with 6 times x plus 1. All right? So you have x squared minus 5x equals 5 minus x plus 6x plus 6. Gather all your like terms, get everything over to one side. Let's do x squared. Let's add x to both sides, and let's subtract 6x from both sides. So that's going to be a plus 5x. So we minus 5x looks like minus 10x. And then we have 5 and 6 is 11. So let's subtract 11 from both sides. So you could show a couple more steps there. I would encourage that so you don't make any mistakes. I hope I didn't make any mistakes here. But anyways, we have this quadratic. Now you can use quadratic formula, or you can factor, whatever is easiest for you. I think maybe factoring, if you're pretty decent at doing this FOIL in your head or whatever, you could factor that pretty easy. So I think, let's see, negative 11. So that's going to have to be 11 and 1 gives us a difference of 10 there. So it's going to be negative, looks like negative 11 plus 1. Does that look good? Okay. So the x values here from this equation right here looks like negative 1 and positive 11. Now, those are not the answers. There's something wrong. And the thing that some of you didn't check, but you have to check the restrictions, or at least you should do a mental check to see if either of these are possible. So do you see that x equals -1 is a restriction? Down here, you see that?
Yeah.
So that means we have to reject this one. If you get an answer algebraically that ends up to be a restriction from the original question, which will happen sometimes, then you have to check that and you have to reject that possible answer. Because remember, the algebra doesn't know what the original question is. You're just using tools. Right here, you're using tools, algebra tools, to find possible values for x. But it just so happens that the way this original question was set up, that not both of these are acceptable. But the algebra doesn't know that. The tools don't know that. If you use a hammer or a saw to do a job, that hammer and that saw is going to cut. It's not going to build a building. It's just going to cut. It's just going to pound. Right? So you have to kind of take the whole thing and check those answers to see if they're reasonable. All right. So the answer is x equals 11 for this one. Okay? Which I think some of you got. I just happened to pull up one this person was confused because they had two possible answers here and they didn't know why one of the options didn't have both of them. But that's why. Because only 11 is the true answer. Okay? Okay? Yeah, any questions about that one?